Hello and welcome back to the MidByte Hour. We have with us the original cast, no special guest today.
I am always a special guest.
Well, not in this episode.
No. I am always a special guest. Roll out the red carpet for me.
All right,
maybe
Riders.
for Sonic Adventure 2. Maybe for Sonic
Adventure
2.
I'm bowing for myself.
But today,
let's go.
All hail Riders! All right. So how's everybody doing? How's your week been, fellas?
It's been a week for sure.
So, when we last left off, I was in a great war against my body, because when I say my body, I mean a raging cough, a blizzard, an avalanche that was drowning out my lungs, and so. Right now, we are in the Cold War, because it is mostly gone, but it's still there. And sometimes, every now and then, it likes to make it known that it's still here, so I may still cough a little bit throughout the podcast. But if I anger it, it'll come back with a vengeance. So we are at a stalemate for now. So that's where I'm at.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I mean, I just got through my own sickness. So.
Yeah, and I actually, honestly, I'll be honest, right now, I have a pretty raging headache. So if you see me like doing this a lot, that's why, because I'm like trying to control my head.
It's all.
I would have just assumed that was like a Psyduck impression.
We're not talking about Pokemon today.
No
Pokemans. We're talking about what me and writers are mostly known for when it comes to our past experience on YouTube. We're talking about Sonic the Hedgehog, and more specifically, Sonic Adventure.
I don't know
because
who
we
that
have
is.
someone here. We have someone here who's never even played Sonic Adventure.
Well, I tried it
until recently.
I did try it before. Like I played it one time when I was younger, and I remember I literally got stuck. And I remember why I stopped playing, because I got stuck and I just could not figure it out, like what to do next, and I just stopped playing. And yeah.
Right. Okay, all right. So, we're just going to basically go over, our thoughts and opinions on the game overall. More specifically with Zach, because he has recently put time into going back and replaying Adventure. And I'm quite interested in seeing how he feels about it, as well as I know Riders is. So, to start it off, Zach, what were your first impressions of Sonic Adventure?
As we stir the tea, because I can tell it's gonna be brewing tonight.
Oh yeah, this is gonna be rough. First impressions, I'll be honest, for the first, I think probably the first half of the game, I actually was pretty positive on it. I was enjoying it. Like the main thing was I still had a lot of issues figuring out where I needed to be, because I feel like the game didn't quite tell me where I need to go. Like it would tell me like for example, the bit where I was with, like, this is pretty early on, I think, or like halfway, with Amy Rose, when you meet up with her and you go into the couple's theme park area, and then Sonic says, "Oh, there's a robot chasing after her. We need to get to her before the robot does." But you actually don't go into the theme park. You need to instead go to the Mystic Ruins. So I didn't understand like that whole thing. So there are parts where I was really confused. So I actually, for a majority of the game, had a playthrough open beside me that, like, I wasn't watching it, but whenever I got stuck, I would skip to where I got stuck to and figure out the solution, because I'm like, I mean, I played this within a week, so I'm like, I need to play as much as I can, but also, I can't be stuck looking around, trying to figure out what I'm going to do for the next hour on this one small part. But other than that, my first impressions were actually really positive. I thought it was fun, minor issues aside that we'll obviously talk about later, but I actually had a pretty positive first impression of the game.
Okay. Writers?
Actually, did you get stuck in Sonic's story or like Amy's story? Because
Sonic's story.
That sounds like Sonic's story.
Okay, timeline seems a little bit weird, because I think Sonic like goes straight into the theme park, if I'm correct, when like Amy's like, look, couples get it for free.
Yeah, they go into the theme park.
He does, but the aftermath of that, he's lost Amy and he doesn't know where she went.
Oh yeah. You know, this is such a funny thing that I think we're gonna come across a lot with these like discussions because, you know, Dave and I have obviously played this game since we were children, and so, you know, a lot of these things you're saying that you didn't know what to do. I'm like, how did you not get that? You know, how did you not know that you had to randomly run to the spot over here, grab this card, and go to this random building to get into the next level? Like, how did you not know that? And then, like, now that I say that out loud, I'm like, of course you wouldn't know that. You know, it's crazy, you know? Yeah. So I think it's going to be really interesting because when you're like a kid, you have like endless amount of time to figure this stuff out. And so, you know, I'm sure Dave and I spend hours and hours playing through this game over and over again. And
I know it like the back of my hand.
Exactly. So
it comes natural.
I think like I've noticed this a lot with me, like playing a lot of games nowadays, because I'm playing through a bunch of games I missed out on when I was a kid right now for like future videos. And I have a guy pulled up next to me too to get through these games because I'm an adult, like I have a full-time job, I'm making YouTube videos and stuff. I don't have time to run around like crazy looking for what to do next. Like I just don't have the time. But when I was a kid, I did. And so I think that's just going to be an interesting observation with a lot of these games that I'm really starting to realize now.
Yeah, and I will also point out something that actually we were talking about a little bit before we started recording. The version of this game I was playing was the Nintendo GameCube version. I played the original, and the reason why, because Dave was trying to talk me into playing the Steam version, the more modern version, but I wanted to play it as I probably would have when I was a kid. Like, I thought, like, let me just, cause if I'm playing the most recent, the best, well, first of all, I'm going to have the people saying, oh, you didn't experience the real version back on the Dreamcast and GameCube. I didn't want to deal with that. I'm like, right, I'm going to play the original that I would have played, and so, yeah, that's that. And that could be why I experienced a little more difficulty with certain things. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I will hold a grudge towards DX for the rest of my life. I don't care if it were one of the first versions of the game that I played. It is just going back and playing the original version of the game shows so much more of a difference compared to the DX port.
Maybe actually that'll make me appreciate, because maybe one day I will play like the updated ports on Steam or whatever, and maybe like I'll have a changed opinion when I play that later on.
Okay, I know that I'm a big Sonic fan, allegedly, but...
Allegedly.
Can you please outline what it is about the mod that actually, like, improves the game besides the graphics? Because
It doesn't just improve the graphics, it completely overhauls the physics to make it function like it did on the Dreamcast, as well as fixing a lot of the issues and bugs that you would randomly come across when playing the original version of DX. Because, alright, this is what I told Zach, right? Okay? The game on PC, if I remember correctly from a video that outlines it, I will try and remember the name of the video at a later point in time and post it in the description or whatnot. The video goes into how the game that was released on Steam, the version of it that was released on Steam, was a port of the GameCube that was ported to the Xbox 360, that was then ported to the PS3, which then was reported back to the PC. It's a port of a port of a port of a port, which leads to many different issues with the game in total, especially with the very annoying border that is stuck around it in
I remember that.
It's low resolution. It's 4:3 resolution.
I don't know. I guess like I clearly have not played better SADX enough to really notice a big difference, but I mean, when I played through it, I was like, okay, I like how this game looks better and stuff. And I like the widescreen support and things like that. Like, it made some improvements here and there, but I still feel like the integral game experience was still maintained. So that's why I didn't personally see the big deal in Zach playing the original version, because I'm thinking, of course, it doesn't have these embellishments here and there, but he's still experiencing Sonic Adventure at its core. So that was just my take on it. So I'm like, yeah, you'll get some improvements here and there, but you're still playing Sonic Adventure. You know, it's not as good of a version of Sonic Adventure, I guess, but it is the version that most of us have experienced at this age group. So, yeah.
Indeed. All right. So that was your first impressions of the game, right?
Oh, my first impressions. Oh, let me think back, because this is like forever ago. So like Sonic Adventure DX was actually, I think, the second Sonic game I ever played. So the first one was Sonic Heroes, which is a choice for his first Sonic game for sure. And the reason Sonic Adventure DX was my second choice was when my parents were not willing to buy me more than like one game every like 4 months or so. I would go on the computer and try to think, okay, what else could I play without paying anything? And luckily on Sega.com, they had a PC demo of Sonic Adventure DX available. And so I remember playing through that demo countless amount of times. You know, I remember all the levels. Sonic had Emerald Coast, Tails had Windy Valley, Knuckles had Red Mountain, Amy had Twinkle Park, Big the Cat had Emerald Coast, I think. And then, oh wait, was it? Yeah, it was Emerald Coast. Then Gamma had... What did Gamma have? I don't even remember. Anyway, I remember playing through those over and over
Final
again.
Egg, if I had to take a guess.
I don't know, because Final Egg is super short. So I'm like, would that really be the demo level?
But I mean, all of his levels are pretty short.
But Final Egg especially, like you can literally finish that level in like 30
it's like
seconds.
20 seconds. Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't remember the demo level being that short. I have to find out one day.
I mean, I wouldn't be able to tell you. That's just the thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, but yeah, so that was my first experience of the game. And I mean, as a kid who was just getting introduced to Sonic games and thinking everything Sonic was doing was perfect, I loved it. So I remember getting Sonic Adventure DX finally when I got the GameCube and playing through it. And yeah, I had a pretty good experience overall. You know, I think I got Sonic Adventure 2 Battle before I got Sonic Adventure DX. So weirdly enough, I played Sonic Adventure 2 Battle wholly before Sonic Adventure DX. But I still enjoy Sonic Adventure DX. I didn't enjoy it as much as Sonic Adventure 2. And I think it just kind of seemed like an inferior version every way to me as a kid. And I still feel like that today. So there you go.
That's okay. It's okay to be wrong. It's all right.
I'll be the deciding vote whenever we talk about Sonic Adventure 2.
I will stand by that point every single day. I think Sonic Adventure 2 just takes... Okay, but that's another topic for another day.
Yeah, that's another topic for another day.
Subscribe to hear that later on.
Subscribe to hear that later on. All right. But yeah, no, I definitely I have a feeling that resonates with me as well. Sonic Adventure was actually my first introduction to Sonic. I remember I was walking around in EB Games before it got rebranded to GameStop long while back. Yeah, it was such a long while back. And I remember I saw the case because my mom was looking at it, and I was like, "What's that?" And she's like, "Oh, this is just a Sonic game." And I was just like, I was bewildered. I was like, "You know what video games are?" You know, it's just like I was about to go into that EB Games, walking out with like Rugrats in Paris or something like that, but instead I walked out with Sonic Adventure, which was originally intended to be my mom's game, but I took over. I took control. And I instantly fell in love with it. There was just something about the game after booting it up, going straight into the Chaos Zero boss fight, and being like, this is something I've never experienced before, and I enjoyed every moment that I had with it.
It's really weird because I feel like Sonic Adventure gets looked down upon so much nowadays, you know, because like most games, it's aged somewhat poorly. You know, you can't deny that. But I mean, like, I feel like it gets a lot more flack than most games of the era did, because it's still a pretty well functioning game overall. I think there's just some like design principles of it that just haven't aged that greatly, but it's still like a really fun game to play through. It's not like it's a broken game, you know? So
Right, yeah.
I feel like it just doesn't get like a lot of mainstream respect, at least. But within the Sonic fan base, it is definitely a big classic. There's a lot of Sonic fans around our ages that like will live and die by this game like every day. And I think I almost feel like the public's perception of it has almost made fans love the game more, if that makes sense.
Oh, certainly, yeah.
Because they're like,
I can see that.
You don't get it. Sonic Adventure's amazing. Right. Like, Zach, shut the fuck up.
That's what I'm scared of. I'm like, I feel gonna, cause like when we get into like the favorite and least favorite, my least favorite list, or like my things I don't like, is a pretty long list. So I'm absolutely petrified to get to that point.
I mean, I will say, as a beginner, in like approaching the game for first impression's sake, it is not very beginner friendly.
Oh no,
it expects you to understand literally everything that's happening as it's happening. But I mean, I know it's like it's hard for some people to come across or hard for people to see, because the thing that is supposed to guide you to where you're supposed to go is literally just the red floating ball that you'll see
the Navi of Sonic. The
Navi of Sonic. And like, even though she will point you in the direction you're supposed to be going, sometimes it's just very vague, and it's just like I remember going for the light speed dash. The light speed dash that you get, it's just like, check the sewers or something like that, and it's just like,
that's the thing. Sometimes that stupid thing is like so bluntly obvious, like it tells you exactly word for word what to do. Then there are some times where I'm sat there like, what did you just tell me to do? Like, it's like this.
But I mean, in a sense, again, I know you had like a week to play this to get your thoughts and opinions out on it, so I understand the frustration with that. But being a kid and playing it and having all the time in the world, it encouraged exploration. So like, you had a multitude of time to just explore and figure things out, and I think for that I kind of appreciated it a little bit more. But yeah, again, coming from a first impression aspect and first time playing, it is not beginner friendly in any means.
I think Sonic in general has that problem. I don't think Sonic in general is very beginner friendly. I think the closest
that's because it relies on people to have already played a game similar to it, which is why the Sonic franchise is so notorious for splitting up the gameplay style every 3 games, because they're trying to cater to people that were used to a gameplay style 3 games back.
It's kind of hard to get into a Sonic game, honestly. I feel like the first ever Sonic game with Green Hill Zone, that's still to this day the closest Sega has gotten to like a perfect like first level, because it's like, wow, it's, you know, still got that Sonic speed action to it. Like, you got that like momentum, you got all these different bandits, all these different obstacles to go through. It's still very like easy for, I wouldn't say easy, but still relatively easy to get into, especially compared to other Sonic games. And Sonic in a 3D space is just a whole nother ball game. And you know, you grow up as a Sonic fan, you go and do all these different like 3D games, you start to realize that, like, you know, you ask your whole life as a Sonic fan, like, why can't Sonic Team just get it right? Like, give us a Super Mario's Galaxy level like Sonic game. Like, give us a game in the same quality. But the truth of the matter is,
I wouldn't stray too far there. A lot of people would say that Lost World was that.
That's what I was just thinking. Like, wasn't there one that was
I'm thinking in terms of critical acclaim. Critical acclaim quality, not like ideas and concepts.
If you want something that's critically acclaimed that people would probably compare to Mario Galaxy, even though I wholeheartedly disagree with everyone that stated this, a lot of people go to Sonic Colors. And I despise that game.
I don't despise it, but it's definitely not that level.
It's just so freaking annoying. But a lot of people, even Sega themselves, have claimed that Sonic Colors is their footing for Sonic in 3D.
Even though like 70% of the game is 2D.
Yeah, but on the, like, they did like a history website during, like, I want to say either the 25th or 30th anniversary, where they listed Sonic Colors as them finally finding their footing for Sonic in 3D, and I'm just sitting here like,
nah,
what?
No, that game kind of cheated. I mean, it's a solid game, but it's too 2D to be considered a fully 3D game for me. So there's that on that game, but. Anyway, back to Sonic Adventure.
Back to Sonic Adventure.
The True Warrior.
Were you gonna? But yeah, no, I was totally agreeing with what you had to say there, writers. So let's move on to our second topic: favorite story and least favorite story. We'll go back to Zach again, since he is the main person we should be focusing on?
Okay, well, obviously, okay, this one's kind of hard, because I'll be completely honest, I did not beat every single story. I've at least dabbled into every single one, so I at least had a general knowledge of what they were about, but the only one I've 100%ed was Sonic's. And so I gotta say Sonic is my favorite, just out of principle, but I will say, as much as I didn't like certain aspects of this one, this is the one I got second most into. I kind of like Tails' story, simply because I actually preferred how Tails controlled over Sonic. Tails, I felt like I was able to go around the environments more fluidly as Tails, like, you know, because of his kind of flying ability. I felt more, his moveset felt more usable. And even though I did not care for the racing, to me, like, I'm just not pro enough at Sonic to race and do good. Like, I just run around, because I'm one of those people where it's like, I don't go fast. I'm slow as Sonic, which is ironic, I guess, but, you know, but I did genuinely enjoy Tails, because it goes through the same beats as Sonic's, so I was able to at least, like, know where kind of to go, because it follows the same story, and I did genuinely enjoy how he played. Least favorite, I found Big the Cat's freaking fishing minigame to be the most abysmal thing in the world. I was sitting there. Where was it? I think it's at the casino or somewhere. I was doing
Twinkle Park.
Yeah, the first one. I was catching all these fish, and then that's when I realized, wait, I'm supposed to catch the fucking frog. And then I'm trying to catch the frog. The frog's not doing anything. I said, fuck this. I'm not doing this anymore. I was like, this is so boring. Why am I fishing in a Sonic game? Like, why am I doing it? I want to run around and do stuff. I'm not fishing. Screw this. And I gave up. So I don't know if that's gonna rub anyone the wrong way. I don't know if anyone loves Big the Cat. I mean, the character design's cool. I like how he looks, and his voice is fun.
It's funny. It's funny because I expected you to come out hating Big the Cat, because see, what has happened in the Sonic community over the past few years is people have sat down and actually given time to learn how to play Big Story. And when they play through it, just recently someone in the Sonic community did it, and they were surprised, because when they played through it and had the exact same opinion that you did, where it's just like annoying, taking forever to do one certain thing, you can finish Big Story within like 18 minutes. It is the shortest story compared to Gamma in Sonic Adventure in total.
It took me that long just to do the fucking fishing minigame. I couldn't figure it out.
Exactly. But the more you play it and the more you familiarize yourself with Big the Cat's character play style, the more easier it genuinely becomes, because throughout the gameplay in Big Story, there's not really, I mean, this is for all characters as well. There's not really a direction to them. They're more so like rewards for exploring the world. You find character upgrades the more you play the game. So for Big, you are able to find like lure upgrades that help him catch Froggy faster. You can get like a fishing pole upgrade, and I think the most obvious upgrade that you'll come across in this story is his float, which will allow you to float within the water and be able to fish like that. And even in one of the levels, I think it's the second level, when you're going through the ice place. I don't know if you made the ice cap in his story.
Nope, I gave up on the first one.
They even hide a lure upgrade in that level that you can get from exploring. But Big the Cat is notorious for being the most hated, I feel, when it comes to adventure. But over the years, we've seen like a complete transition of Big being the most hated, the most boring, to becoming an absolute meme, to people just being like, give me more fishing in my Sonic games. I want more fishing in my Sonic
those
games.
people are delusional.
Which is why a lot of people, including myself, I'll be delusional with them, really enjoyed when they introduced fishing in Sonic Frontiers.
Then go play Sega Bass Fishing. Keep it out of my Sonic game.
No, I want Big there.
No.
Big has to have a purpose.
I would rather have Big
is life.
Have the exact same moveset as Sonic.
Big is love.
No, what we need is Big to gain Sonic's powers and to just run through levels the way Sonic does. That's what I want to see.
What if I started?
I mean, maybe we could have that.
I mean, watching Big go through loop-de-loops in Sonic Heroes was kind of amazing enough. You know?
I guess.
I
suppose.
I will say, like, I genuinely liked the character, and I liked, like, the voice was, I loved Big Cat's voice. I loved the character stuff, the design, him chasing Froggy. It's just the fishing I didn't care about.
Yeah. So it's like, I had a similar experience to what Dave was just describing, but a key difference at the end. And so I had a lot of trouble doing Big's fishing when I first did it too. Like when I was playing a demo over and over again, I could not figure out Big's fishing, because again, I was catching all these fish. I didn't know that I had to catch Froggy, and I only figured out that I had to catch Froggy when I actually got the game and was forced to finish Big's story. But once I figured out that that's what I had to do, again, same story as me. I played through Big's fishing story within like 20 minutes. It's easy peasy. But I also found it to be extremely boring. Like, all I do is just go into the level, find Froggy, fish him out.
You just hate fun. You just hate relaxing. You just hate...
If you want relaxing, play Animal Crossing or The Sims. I don't know. Keep it out of my Sonic game.
The whole point was to give you a break from the Sonic
There's
game.
a Chow Garden for that. We don't need Big's fishing.
Yeah, but the Chow Garden didn't have all the upgrades and stuff that it did in Sonic
But the Chow
Adventure
has
2.
cute little animals that you can evolve into all these different skill sets. The Chow Garden's a whole other thing that, like, we need to praise
Big
the game
has
for.
Froggy. Big has Froggy.
I was gonna ask about the Chow Garden, actually. What's the point? Like, what do you do in it? Because I brought a bunch of the Chow there, and I couldn't figure out what I was supposed to do with them.
Literally, it's just a virtual pet.
Oh, okay.
That's all it is. It's just a virtual pet that you can take care of throughout the entire game. And I don't know. Again, I'm not too familiar with how this worked on DX because I didn't have a Game Boy Link cable, but you could use the Game Boy Link cable to bring your Chow onto what would be called the Tiny Chow Garden on your Game Boy, which was similar to how it functioned on the original Dreamcast version, where they had the VMU, which was in your controller, and you could like take it out of your controller and have like a Tamagotchi version of your Chow from Sonic Adventure on the go. But yeah, it's just serves the purpose of, again, taking a break from the adventure and taking care of a virtual pet.
Honestly, this is my theory, and I think a lot of people share the same sentiment. But I honestly think all these different gameplay styles that they do into Sonic Adventure was just to lengthen the game out. Because Sonic's storyline, it's pretty meaty in my opinion, but you can still finish it pretty quickly. And so that's just the thing with Sonic games, is like you'll finish them really quickly no matter what.
Some people do. It took me a lot of hours. It took me an embarrassing amount of time to beat Sonic's story.
I mean, even if that's the case, I kind of appreciate it because at the same time, I'm very I find it very upsetting when I'm done with a Sonic game in like 4 or 5 hours. It's like, okay, well, I mean, there's replayability to it, but like, I don't want to just play a Sonic the entire time. It gets boring replaying it as Sonic all the time.
Well, that's why I think the Chow Garden was a perfect thing to do that, because it was a mostly optional game mode. You didn't really have to do it to like get through the whole game, but it's tied to the main game in the sense that like you play the main stages and then you go to your Chow Garden, you name your Chow and you feed the Chow these animals that you collect throughout the levels to level up the Chow. And actually, like, leveling up those Chow, you can put them into like Chow races and get emblems to 100% of the game. So it's contributing to the game's overall progression. And so I like the Chow Garden because you can kind of give as much as you want into it, but it doesn't have to like really impede on the main game experience.
Yeah.
And there's like depths and layers to it too. Like you can evolve your Chow into all these different classes, and the Chow Garden should be its own game. Like, we just gotta put that out there. It needs to be its own game. It is a disservice that it's stuck
Sega,
on these.
You're literally sitting on a data. Like,
it is a disservice that these are stuck on these like 2000s games. But anyway, so the Chow Garden is amazing. We got that. Big's fishing though, like, I don't care about Big's fishing. You just fish out Froggy and that's it. You're done within like a minute. It's boring. It's a waste of time. I mean, I guess I could go and fish other fish, but why would I want to do that? I don't care. So that's just my take on it. I like Big as a character. I really enjoy like doing the belly slam with Big and Sonic Heroes, and that's about as far as my love for Big the Cat will go.
He's adorable. Come on, Froggy. I gotta find Froggy. Like,
he is overhyped at this point.
I love it.
He is
Fun
overhyped.
fact: he is voiced by John St. John, the same voice actor of Duke Nukem.
Okay, I like that detail.
So yeah. In case anybody wanted a Sonic fun fact, didn't know that. Are you in agreement with Zach that Big is your least favorite story then?
I think Big is definitely my least favorite, but I will be different and point out a different least favorite.
Okay.
So let's see here. What do we got on the table so far? Well, Sonic's definitely the best. I will say Tails is like a nice supplement to Sonic in my opinion. Like, I don't really consider Tails to be a full-fledged like separate story, just because it's so tied to like Sonic's Venture. But I think it's a nice companion to Sonic, and I think that's like, if you're gonna have a game with multiple gameplay styles, that's like one of the best ways to do it, because it's like it's still very similar to the main gameplay you're trying to advertise, but it gives a different flair to it, you know. So Tails can fly, so you can kind of access all these different areas that Sonic can't access, which is really cool, and also what made the classic games so great with the multiple playable characters as well. Yeah, Amy's really not that special either. I think Amy is a very inferior controlling Mario, basically. And so she only has 3 levels. Most of her story is literally just cutscenes. And like, she controls very stiffly, very awkwardly, and she doesn't have a lot of like movesets to her that are really useful. And you have a stupid robot annoying you throughout her entire levels. So it's not terrible. I can tolerate it, but I kind of have a similar sentiment to that story as I do with Big, in that I feel like it's a waste of time.
Mm-hmm.
I would have rather had them add like levels to Tails' and Knuckles' stories, and then include Amy in there.
All right. And your favorite?
And my favorite, I can't pick Sonic. Well, I could pick Sonic, but
I mean, you could pick Sonic.
Yeah,
but I will.
If you
I
really
mean,
want.
Sonic is the obvious like top story by far. Like, there's no question about it.
Sure.
But I will give points to Knuckles though, because I think Knuckles controls really well in this game, and I think the treasure hunting a little bit underdeveloped in this game, but it was still pretty fun, and I think it only gets like really good in the second half of his story, because I mean, maybe it's because I played the game so much, but I can complete like the first few levels of Knuckles' story within like a minute, so it's not that challenging and that significant to me. It feels like a similar waste of time. But the later levels though, they're a little bit bigger areas, so there's a little more fun to like explore the areas and such. And yeah, I think Knuckles is just got a really good control set, and I really wish they would take that control set and give him his own game, because I think you can have a really nice like open world-esque game with Knuckles' controls. And I'm very upset that Sega has not tried to pursue that. Like, instead they decided to go with Shadow the Hedgehog and give him a gun. So what am I gonna do?
Well, you can't really give Knuckles a gun, unfortunately.
No, but why would you need to give Knuckles a gun? He has his fists, and he's got gliding.
You see, Shadow the Hedgehog is the edgy character.
Knuckles used to be the edgy character.
If you're gonna give anyone a gun, it has to be Shadow.
I don't want to give Knuckles a gun.
He's got the whole reason Shadow existed was to reach out to the more older audience for Sonic, and they gave him a gun because he's literally the only character.
That's when Sega was the ultimate people pleaser, literally trying to please every single person in the world.
Yeah, pretty much.
And by doing that, they please no one.
Exactly. A lesson I've learned very, very intensely over and over again. But anyway.
I mean, Shadow the Hedgehog's not that bad of a game, but we can get into that at a later point.
Are we going to force Zach to play?
Oh.
Are we going to force Zach to play Shadow the Hedgehog?
Oh my god!
I am living for this. We should live stream this.
I don't know if I would want to put Zach through that.
Oh, how many Sonic games am I gonna have to play? Oh my god! Oh.
I do. Let's go.
Zach isn't gonna make it through. Zach isn't gonna be able to make it through Shadow the Hedgehog. I don't think.
We'll see.
I mean, yeah, I can't even make it through. Like, playing Voodoo Westopolis 10 times. Like, no, thank you.
To get the true ending of that game is the utmost most cruel thing Sega could have ever done.
Oh, I don't want to know. Oh, bleh.
It is. If you like playing the game like 150 times.
Oh,
over.
I'm one of those people where it's like, if I have to do something a million times, I hate it. Like, if I have to do basically the same thing, no. So that's not.
You're not
great.
gonna like Sonic Heroes then.
Oh god,
that's true.
That's gonna
true.
break my heart, because that's like my first Sonic game.
Look. Okay, we can get into that another time. We can get into that another time.
What about you, Dave? What's your favorite story and least favorite story?
So I'm gonna resonate with writers here, because I can't really choose any of the other stories. I don't really like any of the other stories least than I do Amy's story. It is the shortest of the bunch and does just feel like a kind of rushed in concept. Just something like, what can we do with Amy that you know you could do that makes her playable, and just put her in the game, give her more importance in the game. Which I understand the reason why they decided to do that was to you know, promote it towards more female audience, because at this time in gaming it was like, you know, a lot of companies were like, let's push for getting, you know, the other half of our community into the community, because girls weren't really that popular with video games at the time, even though there were people out there who were, you know, really into video games. So I just didn't really like it. They don't really explain her story the best, as I feel like a lot of the others do, because when it comes to her gameplay, as a kid, and I mean even now playing the game for the first time, you think that her story plays just like anyone else's story, when it takes a completely different turn and tries to work in Metal Gear Solid into it, where Amy's supposed to be stealth. Her gameplay is supposed to be stealth, and it doesn't really work all the time. You're supposed to go around her levels in a slow manner, and with the robot Zero chasing you, there are certain points in the level where you have like this can that you can put her under or get under to hide from Zero, but it doesn't always work, and Zero is just easily able to detect her. I think the whole point of Zero chasing after her for a bird is like the stupidest story reason you could have ever come up with. But that's just me. So yes, Amy, you know, I could do without.
I am so glad that they drew out the rule that Amy has to be a pathetic, slow loser in Sonic games, because now in Sonic Frontiers, like, she's actually one of the funnest characters in that DLC pack.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
no,
like Sonic Dream Team, she
looks
in Sonic Dream Team, she looks great, like really fun to play as well.
Yeah.
I'm so glad they tossed out that stupid rule.
It was such a stupid rule, and I'm glad that they're giving her more of a spotlight now, and she's not just the fangirl character anymore, which annoyed a lot of people, including me. But when it comes to favorite story, I love Gamma's story. Gamma's story is so unique, and again, it does something that I wish a lot of video games would do when it comes to introducing other gameplay styles, other character stories, and that's being able to see the story from the side of the villain's side. Whereas with Gamma, it's not more so a villain role. He's just a robot that's questioning his existence now. And I find that to be beautiful, and I wish Sega would do that a lot more. I wish we could have another robot character that comes into the cast and is just like, oh, why am I doing these evil things? Like, what is my gain out of this? Which is why I think with the recent introduction of Sage, I get a lot of Gamma vibes off of her.
Yeah.
Because she is the mediator between Eggman and Sonic now. And I just, again, it's something that introduces something unique to the Sonic gameplay, is short to get through, and I really love being able to play as the villain for once in a game like this. I wish games would do that so much more. It feels like an absolute, like, it just feels like a missed potential. Like, and that's why I like going off topic, but like Bowser's Inside Story, where you're able to play as Bowser. Like, I love that. I love the aspect of being able to play as a villain in a game where you're mostly playing as the hero. But Zach, yeah, that's my favorite and least.
Zach, you didn't get to the end of Gamma's story, did you?
No. I will say...
Oh, it's so heartbreaking.
Oh my god, that's like the most beautiful scene in this game. Oh, too bad.
It is so emotional.
Because we're about to spoil it.
So emotional.
We're about to spoil it for you.
Like,
I can't
I'm not gonna go back and play it, so go for it.
Like, I can't not talk about that scene.
Probably not.
Oh my god. Okay, so
I don't blame Zach personally.
I don't either. Okay, so throughout Gamma's story, as he's questioning himself as a robot, he comes across a room that he wasn't supposed to enter, which was his brother in the beginning, E101 Beta, being upgraded. And he like questions it. He's like, Beta? And like once you get to the end of the story, the whole goal of his story is to wipe out every one of Eggman's creations. And once he gets to the end of the story and defeats his brother, his upgraded brother, he realizes that the last Eggman creation he has to destroy is himself.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
And Beta, in a last attempt effort, shoots a blast at Gamma before he blows up.
Oh my god.
And Gamma's like malfunctioning, self-destructing, and as he's self-destructing, like memories of helping Amy, like just glimpses of memories of working with Sonic is just playing throughout his brain, and then he just
Because Gamma was the character I had the least. I mean, obviously in the main story he showed up for like 2 seconds. It was really confusing because I hadn't played the other stories. It was looking back kind of funny that like when his boss fight, if you could call it that, when like I hit him 3 times and then Amy was like, "No, don't do it, he helped me." I was like, "Oh," like I was really thrown back by that. I was like, "Oh, okay, later, dude."
Yeah.
And then it said he was unlocked. I was like, "Oh shit, okay."
Oh, that's literally one of the most
such an
heartbreaking
emotional
scenes in Sonic
It is.
games history. Like honestly, if there's one thing I will say I will love Sonic Adventure for, and I will defend until I die, it's its story. It's got one of the best stories in Sonic games by far, and it's just scenes like that as a reason. Like there's just so much heart in this game, and there's just so much heart about Sonic in general. It's kind of like why I keep coming back to him, because you know it's just such a touching story. Sometimes it's not like the best written story in the world by far.
for sure, no.
But I mean, it did what it needed to do when I was a kid. You know, it was just like, you know, seeing like everyone come together at the end and like cheer Sonic on and stuff. Oh yeah, more spoilers. Sorry, Zach.
More spoiler.
Well, I actually, funny enough, I do have a question about something that happened in the game, like kind of story wise, that kind of like made me go, "What was the point of that?" So, this is pretty early on when we first see Knuckles, and like Knuckles and Sonic kind of fight, and then they drop the Chaos Emeralds, and Eggman picks them up. Why did Sonic and Knuckles fight if they're seemingly friends? What was the point of that?
So,
just for Eggman to get the...
You can explain this if you want to, right?
Oh my
I'm
god. So my poor man Knuckles, he's always getting shafted by the writers. And so in Knuckles' story, while he's collecting pieces to the Master Emerald, he eventually comes into contact with Eggman, who he battles because, you know, it's like, Eggman, oh no, he's up to no good. I gotta take him down or something. And then once he finishes battling Eggman, you know, Eggman decides to plant a little seed in him. And Eggman tells Knuckles that Sonic and Tails are after the pieces of the Master Emerald. And then Knuckles is like, what? Why would they do that? And then Eggman is like, they just are. They're just after the pieces of the Master Emerald. And so Knuckles sees Sonic and Tails from a distance, and he sees a shiny object in their hand, and he just immediately assumes that's a Master Emerald piece. And so
coincidentally, it was also the green Chaos Emerald.
Yeah. So Knuckles literally is fighting Sonic because he's stupid.
He's a knucklehead.
He's a knucklehead.
That really threw me for a
It's
loop.
so sad.
Because that's like after the battle and they get knocked back, that's when Knuckles is like, wait, those are Chaos Emeralds. Then that's when he pieces the two things together.
That's what threw me up, because that's literally like all he said. So I was like, of course they're Chaos Emeralds. What else would they be? I didn't know any fucking other kind of things.
Right, yeah.
That's actually a point I wanted to ask about. So Sonic Adventure has a very interesting structure in the fact that you're playing 6 different characters, and they all have storylines going on at the same time. So you've mentioned it a couple of times. You see like these things in other people's storylines that don't make sense immediately unless you play through all 6 storylines. What do you think about that? Because that's something that like not a lot of games do.
This can traverse back or into the next topic of favorite aspects and least favorite aspects.
I always thought that was a very interesting way that they approached this game, and other Sonic games have done it too, but not really to this extent where you have 6 multiple storylines going at the same time. Like definitely by far the most intense version of this format they've done.
Well, that's actually one thing I was wondering that I almost wanted to ask you guys while I was playing it. Something that came into my mind is, should I play all of Sonic's story and then do the rest, or should I be kind of hopping between them? That's what I wasn't sure of. Like, when I unlock a character, should I play a little bit of theirs and then go back, and then like how? Because like,
yeah. I mean, either way, the one thing that I find annoying about the story, in my opinion, is that the moment with, when Knuckles and Sonic are fighting, that moment is replayed in Sonic's story, Tails' story, and Knuckles' story, and each of them fight Chaos 4.
Yeah.
All over again. And it's the most annoying, most absurd thing, because it's just like, why couldn't you have just made this a Sonic fight and left Tails and Knuckles separate?
Chaos 4 was the one in the water, right? Where you were fighting.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. I need to ask about that boss fight for a second. What was the strategy? I just wailed on it and it worked. But there's like supposed to be some sort of strategy, but like
you're supposed to wait until it's like stopped attacking to attack it.
Because was it that one where I was like, because like it was like attacking, then it was kind of coming up, then it was going back down. And I was like trying to find.
Unless you are thinking of the Egg Hornet.
No, you mentioned Chaos, right? So
yeah, it was the blue thing.
Yeah.
Chaos, right? The Chaos.
No, basically, yeah. It goes underwater and above water, tries to attack you, and then eventually it just stops. It just stays in a spot for like 10 seconds. It
comes up and you're able to hit it.
Actually, hold on. Maybe I'm thinking of a different one. It was one of the Chaoses, but I think that one. I think I was just kind of confused by. Then there was the other Chaos, but I think it was Chaos 6. Where it's like kind of big amalgamation.
That one's a little more complex.
Yeah. That one I was like, are you supposed to hit the bug things in his mouth and then I don't know.
Those things, like, you hit him and then you pick it up and throw it into its mouth.
Yeah. Oh, I never did that. I never picked them up and threw them. I never did that.
They're like they're like ice capsules.
Well, you can also like attack those bug thingies, and then when Chaos 6 is like sucking it in, it'll suck one of those into its mouth.
Yeah. Okay,
and that's how it freezes up.
Okay, that makes more sense. Okay, I was like, I never threw anything. I don't know how to do that then. Okay.
To Dave's point though, there's also another point later on in the storyline where you have Sonic, Tails, Amy, and Gamma. So you get to see that scene 4 different times. And it's, I think it's a really well crafted storyline overall. For a game of its time, but you really do not get to experience it very well. You kind of have to look at it all like in hindsight afterwards. Actually, as a kid, I was obsessed with recording all the cutscenes of the game and then like using like Windows Movie Maker to paste all the cutscenes in sequential order together, so that when I was like wanting to watch a movie, I'd be like, oh, let's watch the Sonic Adventure movie.
It's kind of cool. That is kind of cool, though. Like, they all kind of interlink and intertwine. Like, I do like that. I just think it could have been done differently.
I mean, there is kind of a plot hole in the game that has bugged me for a while. And I mean, I'm pretty sure someone's probably made the connection already. But there is a point in Knuckles' story when he follows Gamma to the egg carrier. But the thing is, the place that we see Gamma land is the exact same place we see him land after going to Red Mountain to destroy one of the robots. But before that point in time in the story, Gamma was not going and destroying the E-Series robots.
Oh yeah, actually. I kind of just assumed that he was just there randomly and it wasn't told in his like storyline. That's just what I assumed.
I mean, maybe
when he went back to Mystic Ruins.
I found that so disconnected because like the time frame just does not line up.
They literally just did that to give Knuckles a reason to get on the egg carrier. That's all. That's the only reason they did that.
I suppose, yeah.
So
I mean, it could have also been him looking for Froggy, because I know that is an objective that he has.
Yeah. So I just looked at it as like an untold part of Gamma's story, which is a little strange to think about, because it's like, well, how come it's not told in Gamma's story?
Exactly.
But it's told in Knuckles' story.
That was the weird thing about the story in general. Also, it's just like it felt like when I was playing, like especially like going at it from like a fresh mind, like playing Sonic's story, random characters would just kind of randomly show up. Like Big the Cat shows up towards the end for some random. I'm like, how the fuck did you get here? How did Froggy get here? Like how did you like I know I'm just playing your story, but like for first time player, I was like, oh, hi Big the Cat. I didn't realize you were part of this.
I think it literally is just a purpose of trying to keep you playing the game. Yeah. So it's like it's trying to encourage you to play the storylines, so you can kind of see what's going on. And I just think that, you know, it's a good idea in terms of gameplay, I guess, to extend the game and get people to keep playing it. But it really isn't an effective way to tell a good story. Which,
yeah, and that's the thing is, like, I felt satisfied enough with Sonic's story. I think that's why I didn't feel, and I still don't feel, too incentive to go back and play all the other characters. It's because, like, I feel like I've experienced what I want to experience out of this game. I got the story.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair.
You know, and there were a lot of bosses, some of which really pissed me off, which we'll go into in a little bit. But, yeah, I did get what I wanted out of the story, so...
Man, though, the finale is something else. I just have to say it. The finale just wraps it all together. It just really pulls on your heartstrings, at least for me, as like a nostalgic Sonic fan. And I only feel like I really truly appreciated it when I watched Sonic X retell the story. Because Sonic X was actually able to like retell the story in sequential order and actually like properly write it, you know, to the best of their abilities at least. And it really let me see just like how good of like a plot outline they had with Sonic Adventure. And so, man, you gotta at least watch the cutscene, Zach. It just as like a very fanatical Sonic fan.
The freaking the build up to just Super Sonic in general is probably one of the best build ups in a Sonic game ever.
And you got like hearing the audience like those really badly recorded audience chants of Sonic's name, like go Sonic, yeah, Sonic.
It's so
I can just envision that
of its time.
I can just envision
and
that.
Then, and then as soon as Sonic gets into battle stance, and you have the rift of Open Your Heart playing, and it's
oh my god,
let's go!
Oh my god. You can't, like, Zach, you saw how crazy, like, at least I went when we saw Crush 40 at Too Many Games.
Oh, that was insane. You were going, I was behind you.
I was saying, like,
yo, look at him go.
When he started with Open Your Heart, I was like, nah. Like, he could have been, he might as well have been Taylor Swift to me at that point, like, honestly.
That's a high praise. That's a high compliment.
There's just, like, so much, like, great memories associated with that song and that finale for me. And I'll never stop praising Sonic Adventure's story. I think it nailed like Sonic's transition to 3D in terms of narrative like super well. Like it took like Sonic always had this like edge to him in the classic games, but of course beyond the Genesis you couldn't really tell like a really effective storyline in game. But I feel like Sonic Adventure, I love that they recognized that Sonic had that potential and actually try to give him like a full-fledged storyline. You know, I think execution could have been a little bit better in a lot of different areas, but I can't help it.
I mean,
I'll go hard for the storyline.
I will gush over the development of Sonic Adventure for the rest of my life. Just not just the development of the story, but just the way they develop the game in general, with Sonic Team actually going out to places in the real world and trying to like study cultures of different areas of the world and translate these different areas and build a world unique to adventure that is built off of actual real world locations.
Man,
I think it's so good. And Jensenoi and Crush 40 in general just they fucking killed it, dude. everything like, okay, I'm gonna just get this out and finally get past the storyline point. But you know, that final scene when at the end after you defeat Perfect Chaos, you know, you have that really sweet like sentimental music playing. You have like the child running towards Chaos who was neutralized, and then you have Takao who was basically saying like Chaos was enraged because he was so mad at humanity for basically destroying his home and like wrecking the lives of all these child. And then
when Super Sonic neutralized Chaos, he neutralized all the negative energy out of Chaos, and now Chaos is just a loving creature that wants to take care of his child for the rest of his life. And it's just like one of the sweetest, like most sentimental things of my childhood.
And then we also get more of Sonic's attitude, because like, you know, at the end of it, Tails is just like, wow, what an adventure, Sonic.
Yeah.
And then he notices that Sonic is gone, and both him and Knuckles turn to see Sonic chasing after Eggman flying away.
If y'all didn't notice, I'm a huge sap, so
I mean, I'm a huge sap too, man. Some games they get to, especially I know with the recent update for Frontiers, like just fighting that new final boss again. I was just like, this is just perfect chaos all over again. I'm loving this.
Yeah, it was just like it was just executed well for its time, and that's why like I would love. You know what? I'm not going to mention that because that's a whole nother tangent. But let's get into some other aspects of the game.
Yeah, some other aspects.
I know Zach wants to like talk
Zach
about some of the negative aspects.
Zach has a list, so let's go over it.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about positives and negatives. I'll start with the positives. I'll start with the good stuff, the things that I liked. And these are the things we touched on a little bit, but I haven't spoken too much on them yet. The music fucking bobs in this game. The music is really good. Like, it's so catchy. And I will say, I don't know who Jimmy is and why he lives in the Mystic Ruins, but they all sound Jimmy or whatever the fuck they're saying in the freaking ruins. But I love it. I love the music. What's the main hub? The city.
Station Square.
Or whatever. Like that's
so
stuck
iconic.
in my head. Catchy. Fucking brilliant music. The whole entire game, brilliant music. So that's a really good point to Sonic. And music is hard to impress me with. So Sonic did good. Sonic's always
been known for his music.
Yeah,
Sonic has always been known for his music.
Dave, what's your favorite song from this game? I know that's a tall order.
That's just too hard to say, but you know, I'm probably gonna have to go with. God, I can't say it because there's just so many good songs. Like, I want to say, like, part of me wants to say Emerald Coast just because that's like the opening level, and like I think perfect theme wise that's just the amazing fit for that vibe. But also part of me is saying Casanopolis because it's so
okay.
Like it's so different from all the others, and it's just like I don't know. There's so many good songs.
I mean, like I yo-yo a lot between Final Egg and Speed Highway, but I think Speed Highway like always wins. The one where it's like when he's at night and he's like running throughout all these highways and like
I
super
like
fast
that, but I also like the Aftermath.
Oh, that's really good too. I love using that in videos.
It's so good because it's just like because you go from a night out in the city to literally dawn of the next day, and it's just it plays so well.
And of course, we can't forget about the vocal themes. Like, it doesn't matter. Sonic's theme song is amazing. I love it so much. And I will admit, Big the Cat's theme can get me bopping my head a little bit too. As much as I hate to say it.
It's not a vocal theme, but I love Gamma's theme. Gamma's theme is so good.
Yeah, music, you literally Sonic, that's the only thing Sonic gets like right almost every time is music.
Yeah. And I do have one other thing that I wanted to point out that I really like, but it's not even because it's something that I really like, it's just so bad that it's good. And that's the voice acting.
Oh boy.
I think the lines and everything, they're so cheesy and they're so bad. But, like, it's got that early 2000s cheese kind of charm. Like, Sonic, what are you doing? Oh, I'm going to go to free Eggman. All right. Like, it's such a cheesy, but I love it. I kind of love it.
It's so unique.
Yeah.
It's so unique.
Like,
and I know a lot of people hate it, but there's actually a reason why the voice acting is so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is because at the time when Sega was recording this, they didn't care. They cared so much less about the voice acting that to the point where John St. John, the voice of Big, said that he hated his take on Big and had begged them to let him re-record Big, and they kept saying no. So
hilarious.
The voice direction for the game, Sega had no cares about it, and that's why it came out so bad and so cheesy, because they thought that people wouldn't care about it, and they themselves didn't care about it.
Well, people definitely cared about it, but I think people have a lot of nostalgia attached to it, you know, especially
Certainly.
People that grew up in that time, and like a lot of games were like getting scripts and voice acting for the very first time around that era, and so there was a lot of things to work through for sure.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah, but it's just very different, very unique, and I do think it worked for the game. I do think it worked for the game, as cheesy as it was. It was just kind of fun. Some of the jokes and all that were kind of cheesy, but it was just good fun. I liked it.
I will say I did not remember the game having so many like weird pauses between lines. Like it's just like, you know, Sonic would say one thing, then you'd get like a couple seconds of silence, and then Tails would say something in return.
My favorite instance.
I think that was just like a programming thing probably, but I actually like personal note, but I've been participating in like a Christmas play locally, and one of the notes that like the directors told me is that like when you're trying to like act out conversation on stage with someone else, you know, if you're like in like an argument in like a really like tense situation, you tend to talk over each other quite a bit. You don't say something, you wait like 3 seconds and then reply to the person, you know? That's not how like a natural conversation works. And so ever since she said that, I look back on these early games and their cutscenes, and I'm like, that doesn't seem very natural to me now. So I just found that to be an interesting point I wanted to make.
I will say one issue I did have with the voice acting, though. I will say that Eggman had a total of like 2 lines that he'd rotate between during boss fights. That final boss with him and the Egg Viper, I think it was called, whatever. Like whenever
see if you can make it through this.
That he would do that so many times. He would, and every single time I was like, and
get a load of this.
You get a load of this. That one, every time that first attack, and I died so much in that boss battle, and that's gonna be one of the things I complain about here in a bit. I died so much because for some reason, whenever I tried to do the thing to him, it would go right through him and would not register that I hit him, and I would fall right off the stage, and I have to hear him say,
that's a classic DX bug right there.
Get a load of this, get a load of this like 10 more times. I'd be like, shut the fuck up, Eggman, I want to crack your skull and get the yolk out of your head like a fucking egg. Like, oh my god, shut up.
Oh, I didn't know we had Eminem as a special guest here.
But yeah, other than Eggman, the voice actor is great. So
rest in peace, Dean Bristow.
Oh, did he play Eggman? Okay, now I feel bad.
Yeah, he no, that's okay.
But it's fine.
That's not his fault. Enough lines.
No, he only recorded that line once, probably.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then Sega was like,
"That's fine. We don't need any more lines. We just keep repeating the same thing over and over again." The boss, it's fine.
Well, while I'm on that topic and starting with things I did not enjoy, the controls. Let's talk about those for a second.
Ooh, okay.
I thought they weren't horrible, but there were some times where I was like, not good. For example, in the section towards the end of Sonic's story where you gotta use, I mean, this like, there's a few instances like this, but this one in particular stands out, where you gotta use, I think it's like the mirrors and the light to light up the path and all of that.
Oh, yeah.
That required a little bit of precision platforming that I feel like for Sonic, not quite it. As well as the room where you had to hit the 3 buttons, and like there was water that was rising, you had to hop on the dragon and like get to the top.
That one.
It's like, this is Sonic. This is not Mario. Precision platforming, I don't think works for Sonic. I don't think it. Every time I would get to one of those rooms, I'd have to retry it a bunch of times because the way I jump and the depth perception, like, I just could not control Sonic the way I wanted to. And that's why I liked Tails a little bit more, because Tails, I feel like I had a little more control. But yeah, controls, bleh. And then, like I said with the final boss of Sonic's story, like, I would like do the spin dash or whatever it's called at Eggman's, particularly when I was on those spinny spike things he would send out at me, and I would jump and do it, and it would go right through him, and I'd go off the stage and have to restart the whole battle again. I literally actually screamed a couple times because of how frustrating that was.
I have a question.
Yes.
Did he hit you at the final thing?
At the final thing? Oh, yes! Because there was, like, no... he was on fire, going around. I was like, thank God that's over with. And then all of a sudden I hear this little bitch Navi going, oh, watch out, it looks like he's doing something. I said, what? He came and just killed me. I was like, I had to do the whole battle again. I was so fuming. I kid you not, like half an hour, and that happened to me, and I was like,
oh my God.
Amazing.
I remember that. I remember being angry about that as a kid, actually.
Like, you can't do that. That was empty.
I will say that is probably the worst thing that they could have possibly programmed. He is programmed to hit the platform that you're standing on. So whenever Tikal comes out and says, watch out, he's doing something, you're supposed to move to the opposite platform.
But only when he starts, like, coming down on you.
Yeah, but only when he starts actually coming down.
So, like, the time reflex is, like, a little
you have to do it like a millisecond. Yeah, you have to do it like 2-5 milliseconds.
You know what I like, now that I've played the game so much, what I do is like I will stand on that platform, but I will have Sonic face the direction of the other platform in front of him, and when Eggman starts coming down, I will jump and homie attack because I don't trust the thumbstick to get Sonic out there fast enough. And so that's how much I've coped with the game's controls, because I come up with little like tips and tricks like that to work around it, and that's my experience of a lot of like older Sonic games.
I will say, kind of off topic, but I know you haven't played all of Tales' story, correct?
Correct.
Eggman has one of my best line deliveries in the final boss of Tales' story, because he's so fed up with Tails and just getting in his way, to the point where he's like literally, he tells Tails, scram before I make mincemeat out of you. He literally tells Tails that he's gonna make mincemeat out of him. It is like best line.
That's gotta be illegal, right? I mean, Tails is a fox, right? Like, that's gotta be illegal.
Oh my God, actually, like, sorry to go back to the story, but Tails' storyline is so good. You know,
it is
at the very end, because actually Eggman is a lot more threatening in Tails' storyline than Sonic's, and that's actually one of the geniuses of the multiple viewpoints in this game, is that at first I didn't really understand it, but every storyline, you know, even though you go to the same scenes with all the characters, they each had slightly different lines, like slightly different things that they would say in each storyline. And for instance, in Tails' storyline, you would battle Knuckles as Tails. And so obviously they had to change some of the dialogue to accommodate for that. But in Tails' storyline, at the very end, Eggman is far more threatening and far more scary than he is in Sonic's storyline. You know, at the end of Sonic's storyline, Eggman's like, oh, welcome Sonic to my lair. Are you ready for a good time or something like that? But in Tails' storyline, he's literally like, I'll make you pay for this.
Yeah, literally. And it's so funny.
I just think that like what they were trying to do with that is that obviously Eggman is going to be a lot scarier to Tails, because Tails has never faced Eggman by himself before. And so I think what the writers were probably thinking was that, well, in Tails' point of view, that's probably what he feels like Eggman is to him, is like this impossible threat that he has no chance of winning against. But of course, in the end of Tails' storyline, Tails does defeat Eggman, and Tails just has this really cute moment being like, I did it. I saved the day. I can do this without Sonic, you know? And of course, you have those iconic crowd moments saying things like, you saved the day! You're the best! You know? And so that's just another opportunity for me to praise the storyline. Yeah. That's all.
All right, moving on. Back to your list, Zach.
Okay, this one was a real doozy for me. The camera. I thought the camera was absolutely abysmal. I always felt like I was fighting with the camera to do what I wanted it to do. And something that didn't help, I have a feeling this might be something exclusive to the GameCube version, because they have to have fixed this. There's no way they didn't fix this. Anytime you died or loaded into a new area, because I like the free camera, but every time I died or loaded into a new area, it would automatically go back to the auto camera. So every time, I would always get stumped and I have to pause and switch the camera back to the way I want, just for me to die 2 seconds later and then have to do the same process again.
Wow. I never realized that, but that's because I've always used the auto camera.
The auto camera I could not stand the auto camera. I could not stand.
I
Even
gave
the
up
free camera.
working with the camera.
I gave up.
I gave up.
It was like trying to like have you ever like I don't know, I mean I don't know, I don't think you guys have kids or anything like that, but like, you know, my family's like trying to change the diaper of a kid who's kicking their legs, and it's like, just stay still. Like it's like impossible to work with it. Like you can't, like it's impossible.
I will say that's probably the most thing that a lot of people criticized about this game. The camera is not the best.
It's so bad, but you can't even really blame the game for it, because like that's very common for the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s 3D platformers. Like the camera is never great, but it still sucks.
Yeah, for sure.
Unless it's a game like Mario 64.
Yeah. Well, I think
know.
Mario 64 is pretty overrated and not great, but you know, it's
I mean,
like
me
the
too,
camera
me too.
64.
Oh, okay.
But I will say, I will say, I kind of enjoy how the camera worked in 64. I think
I did not.
I did not. But that's a whole other discussion for all other day.
I guess we'll have to do a 64 episode at some point, but I'd have to play through all that.
I feel like instead of just a 64 episode, we should just do a 3D Mario episode in general.
We could.
We will discuss that later.
And then the last thing I had on my list for things I didn't really like, the difficulty of this game was just kind of all over the place. I mentioned obviously earlier that like the game kind of expected you to know where to go and what to do. Like there was a point where it was by the casino, and I had to meet up with Amy for something. It was like Amy and the little bird thing she was with, whatever. And like I bumped into them in that specific spot, but I come across that out of luck. That I just happened to go to that area because I was trying to look for where I was supposed to go, and I just happened to stumble upon it. Like I would have never guessed to go there. I forget what it was for, but I would have never guessed upon it. And then there are things like all those like chaos battles were ridiculously easy. Besides the one with the bugs, the ice bug thing, whatever, I didn't die on any of them. I had no issue with any of them. The only boss battle I had trouble with was Chaos 6 and the Egg Viper battle, the last Eggman battle. Like those are the only one that. But like other than that, like those were really easy. But everything else I just found to be like head scratchingly like difficult at times. Like I don't know, and like it wasn't like, I mean, it wasn't like a hard game, but it was like a lot of, it was a very like confusing game, I think is a better way to put it. Confusing. And that's because I think of its story structure, which is what makes it what it is, but it also just kind of makes things a little confusing to me.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, that's about it.
That's an interesting question, actually. Dave, what's your thoughts on adventure fields? Do you feel like they benefited the game or take away from the game?
Oh, 100%. I am full-heartedly in agreement that it made the game better. Now, I don't know how it is for you guys, but see, now this is why, again, and we can get into this in the Adventure 2 episode as well, but this is why, again, I like Adventure more than Adventure 2, because it actually feels like you're going on an adventure. Now, again, given that you had to play this in such a short amount of time, Zach, and you didn't have much time to really play the game as long as you wanted to, coming from someone that did have enough time to play the game for a long time and, you know, still goes back and plays it, I love being able to see the world that Sonic is in and being able to interact with NPCs. It gives me something to do rather than just level after level after level after level after level.
I will say, actually, I do agree with that. I do like the like that. Not me knocking the open. Or not the open world. Sorry, the hub world, as basically what it is. It's hub world. I actually do. I like it. Like I prefer them. So if Sonic Adventure 2 doesn't have it, I would probably prefer Adventure 1 or like that. Like I prefer that structure because it makes the world feel a little more real. It makes it like you said, like an adventure. For me, the one thing I would have added to it was like just to make it a little easier. Like sure, it's like on the map screen, just put like a little point saying where you are. So if you don't, if you want that little bit of a challenge, the game isn't blaring in your face where to go. But like if you're kind of stumped, you can look at the map and see, oh, I'm supposed to go there.
Yeah. That's the navigation definitely needed work. and I think that's why I like Frontiers a lot as well, because I just look at Frontiers as worlds that you go to, islands that you go to, as a ginormous version of these adventure fields with an actual map that can navigate you to where you need to go.
Yeah. But yeah, I do like the worlds, and it just dawned on me. You know how a few weeks ago we posted that the short from one of our earlier podcasts about the GameSpot reviewer with Battle for Bikini Bottom. I really hope I haven't said anything that makes you sound like that, like no, stupid.
No,
like,
everything sounds fair.
We would have called you on
roasted me, but...
No, we would have roasted you.
I'm sure writers would have probably lashed out.
I would have roasted you by far. But no, everything you're saying is pretty reasonable, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will say that, like,
gosh.
in terms of like figuring out where to go, there is a bit of a cheat that not really a cheat. I think it is like an intended, like, programmed, like, way of you knowing where to go. But the Navi thing you're talking about, which is technically Tikal, there is a spot in each adventure field that you can find Tikal, and if you go to Tikal, she actually tells you like where to go next. So like in Station Square, for instance, it's like to the left side of the train station outside. And so I remember
by the hotel?
Yeah, by the
it's
hotel.
like by the hotel. It's like
It's
in
like
between the hotel
like
and
in
the
between
train
the
station.
hotel, like where the cars come out. You can
But, like,
see.
Oh, I thought you could go in there. By the way.
Oh, yeah,
There's a bunch of
Yeah,
times where I
me
was,
too.
like, trying to go
when I was
in.
a kid, when I was a kid, I thought you could too. But yeah, so you could always go there, and she'll tell you like where to go. She's like, "There might be something in the casino. Go take a look." Yes, or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
I wish I knew
There's
that.
stuff. There's stuff like that. Like I said, again, sometimes her hints can be very vague.
But but like they don't tell you that Tikal's right there. So it's
Yeah,
like
I know. That's
yeah.
why I was like, did they say
Yeah.
that? Like, I don't remember.
No,
that.
they
You just have to stumble
it's
upon her.
It's very hard to come across, and especially if you're focused on trying to figure out where to go. You're not going to be like, oh, let me find Tikal real quick. You know, it's just a thought that comes and goes as you're trying to find where you're going. But also in the adventure field, sometimes, like for instance, the Amy thing, I think if you hadn't gone to where Amy was just out of random curiosity, I think in that moment or in that part of the game, if you try to go to the train station, it's like the train
station's closed.
The train station's
Yeah.
closed,
Yeah.
so they'll change things in the adventure field to try and push you towards where you need to go.
Yeah, I do remember that, because I do think that's when I discovered, because at first I always thought you had to access the casino through the hotel, but then that's when I figured out that there was that staircase in the station that led to the casino. I think that's when I bumped into her.
Yeah. So I got a hot take.
Oh no.
I got
it's
a
not
hot
just me.
take.
Well, let me guess.
got-
You don't
this
like
is
the
gonna
adventure
make-
fields, do you?
I actually used to like them, but
You
as
used
I've
to.
gotten, because I like the idea of an adventure field. Yeah, I like the idea of being able to play as Sonic and roam around everywhere, talking to NPCs and like exploring the world. I really like the idea of that. That's why I really like Frontiers. I think Frontiers does such a great job at that. But I just feel like the adventure fields in Sonic Adventure are so half-baked and just such a waste of time. Because I don't care about any of the NPCs in that game. They're all boring humans that like have nothing to add to the game storyline. So that's one thing. And another thing is like you don't really get to like really like explore through the fields. They're just kind of like blank spaces. You just run from one room to the next. It's like I want to go on top of buildings. I want to like race through alleyways. I want to like do crazy stuff that, you know, like you could do like as Spider-Man in like New York City, you know, like let me use Sonic's abilities to travel through these adventure fields and stuff. And so I think adventure fields for me just has to be done in a way that like it feels like it really adds gameplay wise to the game. But to me, like every time I play through this game over and over again, it feels more and more like a waste of time personally. I think the only use I find from it is just, you know, getting to explore around, like finding like some hidden emblems, for instance, or like finding like these little hidden Chow eggs also that you can bring to the Chow Garden. So like find little secrets like that, that's fun. So I would have liked a little bit more of that. But otherwise, it basically just served as, again, a way to elongate the game, you know, to go so that you're not going from stage to stage and finishing the game within like 2 hours, basically. So that's my personal opinion on it. I don't feel like Sonic Team ever got the adventure fields right until Sonic Frontiers. You know, Sonic 06 was just awful, like
I
absolutely
mean,
awful.
I'm not playing
again,
that one, by the way. I'm not doing it.
There are, I mean, there are certain reasons why they never really got to really flesh out the adventure fields, which
For sure. I
lead
think they
into
made this game like
Adventure
under a
2.
year.
They did, but and I mean, again, I know it's Adventure 2 talk, but if I had to say one thing that I'm really impressed with Adventure 2 is that they unfortunately had half the team that they had for Adventure cut.
Oh, they did?
Yeah. Adventure 2 was made with way less people than they had for Adventure 1. It was like, I want to say around 50 people, I want to say, worked on Adventure 2, and they got that out within like a year. So like,
I'll thank those 50 people my whole life. Thank you
I
for
mean,
giving
they
me one
got
of the most
a
epic
drastic-
experiences of all gaming.
That was when Sega was going through drastic like reconstruction of the company, and a lot of people were
for
getting moved
sure.
around because they were because after that game, that's when they decided to leave the console market completely.
Yeah, go out with a bang for sure. But yeah, that's kind of like one of the main reasons I've come to prefer Adventure 2. I just don't think that Adventure Fields really add as much to the game as a lot of people that support it like really like will say it does. Like I just don't think it's like fun enough for its inclusion in the game. I would have rather the game didn't have them, if I'm being totally honest. I just don't think they add enough to the game experience. Like if they were like really fleshed out and like had a lot of like different things to do, you know, out of like Frontiers, then that would have been great. But I understand that that wasn't like in the game's scope at the time. Like there was no way they could have done anything like that at that time. But then you have to think about the other point that, well, it would have been nice if I had like a couple more Sonic levels, for instance, or like a better controlling Amy, for instance. You know, it would have been nice if they used those resources to do other things. So that's my ultimate stance on that. I don't hate the idea of Adventure Field, but I think there's very few times Sonic Team have gotten them right for me. Like even on Unleashed, you know, they were perfectly fine in Unleashed, but like you don't even control like an actual Sonic in that game, you know, in terms of the adventure fields. Like it's a very like it's a Sonic with 10% of speed, and he can't do anything besides jump and homing attack. And so, you know, that's just another example of like that kind of had like the same issues for me as Adventure does. In fact, even worse, because Sonic didn't even control like himself in that game. But I mean, I think that's a game, Zach, you'd be willing to play it. Actually, Unleashed is a pretty interesting game.
Is that the Werehog one?
Yeah, the Werehog one.
Well, if we do an episode on that,
I think you might.
If you want more Sonic, if you want me to subject myself to more Sonic, drop a like, please. Support the channel.
Well, I'm gonna be honest. If we do Unleashed, a lot of people are not gonna like what I have to say about that game. So
I am kind of an Unleashed apologist. So I'm sure we'll balance each other out.
I've
pretty
gone
well.
back and tried to play that game, and there's just not 1 ounce of that game that I feel like I enjoy, aside from the music.
Well, stay tuned for that episode one day.
I have the soundtrack for Unleashed physically, but that's like the only part of the game that I wholeheartedly just love. Everything else is get it out of here.
Well,
when did we schedule Adventure 2 for? Because I think we've already scheduled.
I think that's next month. I think that's next month because
I
think
we did.
Yeah, after this one is the quirky SpongeBob games, and then that'll be it because the last 2 weeks of December are after that.
Yeah. So I almost think I might have made Dave's blood boil with what I just said. But
no. I mean, I can see where you're coming from. I can see where you're coming from for sure. But I mean, again, the only thing I can really say is something you've already stated, and they just didn't have the hardware for it. They didn't have the hardware for it. It just it couldn't be done.
I'll be honest. I kind of dig the Adventure Fields for their kind of simplicity.
I mean, that's what I like about them. I'm
sure like whenever I play the future game, like like Frontiers, if I play that one day, like I'll appreciate the more like sophisticated, and I'll appreciate it more. Like, cause I do understand, cause like I love Banjo-Kazooie. It's my favorite 3D platformer, and Gruntilda's Lair and the whole world for that game. There's so much to do. There's a lot of little hidden bits and nooks and crannies for you to see, and this game definitely doesn't have that. But I feel like I don't know, if, like for this kind of game, like for Sonic, I don't expect Sonic to be as intricate as something like Banjo-Kazooie or 3D Mario. So just being able to run around a world, even though it would be nice to have it be a little bit bigger, so there is more running around you can do. But again, limitations, whatever. But yeah, I thought it was serviceable for what it was trying to accomplish, and it's a good way to at least make the world feel a little more real.
Like I said, I don't hate the idea of adventure fields. I just think it was a very subpar attempt at it. When you have games like Banjo-Kazooie and Mario 64 that do such a good job at that kind of gameplay, but that's also just not Sonic's forte. Like, that's not what I play adventure for. So I'll always go by the viewpoint that I would have preferred like a few more Sonic levels over that. That's just me.
That is actually one thing I will bring up. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but about this game that did confuse me. I was kind of confused why there wasn't more Sonic-y feeling levels. Like, because like I mentioned, there were the platforming segments that were a little too precise to feel like Sonic. And then, of course, there was like the F-Zero type minigame in the theme park area. There was the pinball machines in the casino area. And they were definitely trying a lot of different things, but there wasn't a lot of Sonic, I felt.
I feel like that was a trend in gaming around that time. You know, a lot of games were trying to like, oh, look, you can play as 6 different characters and you have like 10 different mini games in this game. You know, it was like a really strong marketing point from what I can tell just from observing other games around the time.
I think again, aside from it trying to extend the gameplay further for Sonic Adventure in total, is I think it had something to do with just trying to appeal more than just the average Sonic fan. Because like, a Sonic fan's gonna pick this up and play Sonic, but like maybe someone sees that it has multiple playable characters and they're like, oh, you know, I only have to play as Sonic or for a moment before I can go and play as a different character. And even so, they even thought ahead of time, because like even though you have to unlock characters to play throughout the story, no matter whose story you're playing as soon as you come across that character, they become unlocked. So if you play through Sonic's story up to the point where you unlock Tails, and then you continue to play from Tails' point of view, and you can unlock Knuckles, Amy, you know, it just without having to play all of Sonic's story. So I think the angle that they were trying to get at here is that while die-hard fans would at this point in time play through this game, probably 100%ing it, a lot of people that are looking at maybe being at a friend's house or just looking at gameplay of it somewhere in a game store, they're like, oh, I don't have to play as just Sonic. I can just go and play as a different character, which is why they decided to make each story last at least half an hour to an hour so people could get their gameplay's worth out of it and be like, okay, I enjoyed it, and maybe I'll go back and play a different story.
That makes sense.
I honestly think that I'm really glad that Sega has kind of branched away from that viewpoint, because again, you try to please everyone, you're not going to please anyone. I think that's a hard lesson they've had to learn with Sonic games throughout the years.
I think going into that, I can't remember if it's something that I read somewhere, but I'm pretty sure the reason why big gameplay is Sega Bass Fishing was essentially to try and get people that played Sega Bass Fishing to play Adventure and vice versa.
Yeah,
which is a bit weird. That is a trend that like lots of companies, like Nintendo, is very guilty of this as well. Is they'll change, like they'll introduce things to the games to try to appeal to everyone.
I mean, it's not the first time that Sega's done it either.
Yeah, it is a trend that's been going on for years and years and years, and it's kind of like okay, I get the fact that you want this to have more of a broad appeal, but when you take away from what makes that niche thing special, you kind of dampen the waters, and then like the kind of rut that Sonic got itself in. You have so many different styles of game that people expect a bunch of different things, and it just becomes hard to please everyone.
Like, I feel like, and this is a discussion to be had for another day, but I feel like Frontiers is kind of the closest Sega's ever gotten to, you know, excelling at that balance between, like, this is a Sonic game, but we're also incorporating something new that could appeal to a broad group of people. Open world games, those are really hot right now. And so I feel like Frontiers is the closest Sega's gotten to maintaining like a really good balance between those two like conflicting ideals, because of course you want to make a Sonic game that appeals to Sonic fans, but if you want Sonic to grow as a franchise, then incorporating new ideas into his games is very important as well. And I feel like Sega was very focused in incorporating this one single idea into that game, and I think it's become Sonic's best-selling 3D game now. So,
and I mean, just to be on top of that, I think the main reason they did do that is because, believe it or not, Sonic's never really been that popular in Japan. Even when Sonic Adventure came out, Sonic was not popular at all. People did not understand Sonic. People did not like Sonic as much. And this is the first time since Sega's ever published a Sonic game in Japan where the Japanese audience for Sonic went, wait a second, this is actually really interesting. Like, Sonic has performed so much better in Japan since Frontiers launched, and I think that's just a huge milestone for Sega in general, because they finally found something that clicks with an audience that they have never been able to find something that clicks with.
Interesting.
So, do you have anything else in that list, Zach, or?
No, that was it. I will say, I guess I'll just kind of go into my overall thoughts.
All right.
Overall, I did enjoy the game. It has its quirks. It has its issues. I maybe one day I will replay it. I can see myself in a couple of years saying, "Oh, let me try it again. Let me, but maybe play the newer, or the updated versions of the game." So if I had to give it like a number score, as pointless as that is, I would give it I think I would give it like a 7.
All right. Yeah. I think that's fair.
It was pretty good.
Yeah.
It was pretty good. Not amazing, but like I can see why Sonic fans like it. I ripped on the game a lot, but a lot of that also just has to do with the age of the game and the era that it's in. So I can't fault the game too much for it. So I think a 7 is a fair score for it.
No, that's fair.
You're brave. I don't do number scores anymore.
I'm feeling bold tonight. I
to be honest,
shit about
to be honest,
I don't do numbers anymore.
Number scores in general,
F that.
I feel like number scores in general have been so misconstrued by the main media outlets.
Yeah, 7 is
because
good.
7 is good.
Dude.
But if a game gets a 7 on Twitter, it is the worst thing ever. It is the end of the world. And I'm just sitting here
below 90 now.
If it doesn't even break 95, it is considered a horrible game. And I'm so sick and I'm so tired of this mentality that every game company has to break 90.
Yeah,
it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. It's not possible.
You know how many games are in the 80s and even 70s that are really freaking great games that people won't give a shot because of the fact that they're not top. Most of the games I like are, this is off topic, but most of the games I like are so niche and they don't get the 90s in the scores. And you know what? Not every game needs to be a 90 score.
I think your opinion should be your own opinion. If you like this game, you like this game. Don't let a big critic like IGN or anyone else go, "Oh, this is a great game," because you want to know what? IGN gave Fortnite a 9 out of 10.
And some people don't even know how to use the bubble bowl. Fortnite
is rated higher than SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom, and I'm confused.
Now, I will say that I'm not a Fortnite fan either, but clearly that game has a secret sauce to it that no other game has.
But it's still a live service game. It's still a live service game with a 9 out of 10.
A live service game can be fun. I've never played Fortnite.
But if you're going to rank or give a review number to a live service game, you have to update the review number as the game goes on, because it changes. It changes drastically.
Yeah.
Again, you have all these rules, but no one really needs to follow them. So
but that's why I don't trust critics. I don't trust critics. So state your own opinion. Don't let someone else dominate your opinion.
Yeah, and that's why I'm to bring it back to the initial conversation. That's why I'm confident in my score of Sonic Adventure, because it's my own opinion. Everyone has their own scores and opinions on it, and that's just what I think of it. It's a solid game. It's nothing groundbreaking, at least to me, but it's still fun for what it is. So yeah, 7. Done easy. Boom, boom.
I know what Dave's score would be. It would be 10,000.
Nah, it'd be 8.5 out of 10.
Toning it down for the podcast. I see. Okay.
No, I'm legit.
No, I'm not doing number scores. No more.
I would give Sonic Adventure a 6 out of 10.
Ooh, okay.
Oh.
I mean, Sonic Adventure 2. My bad.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well.
The attitude change in
My
Ryder.
bad.
The
My
switch
bad.
flipped.
No.
My bad.
No.
Because
We are gonna
whenever
get to
whenever I heard writers go, okay, I was like, oh wait, I said Adventure, not Adventure 2.
So Ryder, you don't have to give it a number score, but just say just general how good would you call Sonic Adventure?
I think
1?
Sonic Adventure is a good game. Don't get me
So
wrong.
a 7 out of 10.
There's a lot of nostalgia I have for that game. I know I like to rag on it just because it is always going to be inferior to its superior younger brother, Sonic Adventure 2, but it's still a very good game in its own right for me. I still have a lot of great memories with it, so I will never be against Sonic Adventure. But there's a lot of things that obviously have not aged well for me. Adventure Fields, I used to love that part of Sonic Adventure, but I think I more so just love the concept of it, so that's why I was always praising it. And it's I still love the concept, but I just don't think the game executed it as well as I would have liked it to. So a lot of realizations like that have kind of driven down my praise for Sonic Adventure, but it's still a game I hold very near and dear to my heart. And I will say there's some things about Sonic Adventure 2 that have brought it down in terms of quality for me as well, but I still think it's one of the greatest things ever created. So
Can't agree with you there, but we will talk about that in Adventure 2. All right. Well, I mean, overall, I would say my thoughts on the game, it's solid. It's okay. It's a great step forward for the beginning of Sonic's 3D adventure. But yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it, Zach, to an extent. And,
To an extent, yeah.
yeah.
thank you for giving it a chance. I know you had a lot of eyes on you, at least from us, when it comes to this game.
I will say, and just kind of my final point on it, and to go back, this is more so in case anyone's watching or listening that hasn't played Sonic Adventure or just isn't familiar with the Sonic games, I would say don't start with this one. As we kind of mentioned earlier, it is not beginner friendly. It is really not beginner friendly.
What's a good Sonic game to start with? Actually, I'm trying to think.
Probably Sonic 2, just the original 2D ones. I remember playing those as a kid, and those were
But in terms of 3D, Sonic, as much as I would rag it, as much as I would rag onto it, I would say Adventure 2 probably would be a good starting point.
Oh, really? That's not what I was gonna say.
I feel like Adventure 2.
I was gonna say Colors.
No, don't do that to yourself.
No, just because it's
no.
Adventure 2 has a lot of complexities
to it.
There was one Sonic 3D game that I actually did play, and I actually remember liking it a little bit. I didn't beat it to completion, but I thought it was pretty easy to get into. And you guys are gonna roast me.
Okay, what is it?
I think I got this name right. It was Sonic Lost World. It was the Galaxy.
Definitely not that game. No.
I kind of enjoyed the little bit that I played of that one.
That's because it's not a true Sonic game.
Yeah, it's trying too hard to cater towards Nintendo fans.
Oh, yeah. That's why I liked it then. Okay, never mind. Don't listen to me.
I feel like I would say Colors just because I feel like it's a simplistic 3D Sonic game. It still has the main Sonic mechanics to it, and I feel like it's pretty beginner friendly.
If you want to play the same level 6 times in a row across 7, is it 7?
That's not a true statement.
Yeah, it is.
The levels are distinct enough.
The acts
some of them are very useless.
The acts of each level are literally copy
I thought we were
paste.
Get it too.
The acts of each level are literally copy and pasted from previous acts. It is the exact same level 6 times in a row, and it is so fucking annoying.
They're not copy and paste it. Some of them are, but not
play
all
Sonic
of them.
Colors first. Do
not.
not.
You're doing so well. No.
I will give you. I'm not even a Colors lover. Let's just get that straight. But the acts are unique for the most part, but some of them are not good. Some of them are just random things that are not true Sonic levels. But I just think that it's a good beginner's game for a Sonic game.
Sonic
that's just
Adventure
my opinion.
2 is the better option, in my opinion.
In terms of a
torture
quality
yourself
game,
with
yes, Sonic
Colors.
Adventure 2 is a better game. I'm just thinking
torture
like
yourself with colors.
if I had to introduce like a Sonic game to like my friend who doesn't know anything about video games at all, like Sonic Adventure 2 would not be the first one I do. Personally. It definitely would be a game I want them to eventually lead into, for sure. But that's that on that. I guess we'll have to do a colors episode eventually, because that would be very interesting. We're just gonna do all the mainline.
I'm gonna make sure.
I'm
gonna make sure that by the time the colors episode comes up, I get really, really, really sick, so I don't have to participate in that one.
It's man, you gotta give colors its flowers. Like it's a decent game.
It is so boring.
But it's like
how many Sonic games am I going to be subjected to play? Out of pure curiosity.
Okay, don't worry, Zach. You can build up your Luigi's Mansion list. I'll play all of them.
No. You can play colors. You can play colors, but you have to play the DS version of colors.
Why?
I like that version
because the DS version, the DS version of colors is better than the Wii version.
I will agree with that. I do like that version better.
What about the Switch version? Because that's probably what I would get.
The Switch version is literally just the Wii version.
And I think the Switch version has issues, I'm pretty sure.
It does have some issues.
Listen, I'm so used to that.
Like loading screen times lasting like 30 seconds.
Used to it. Kid, I played Rehydrated on Switch at launch. Okay,
I don't think it's that bad.
Yeah, I was like, I've been through it. I've been through everything.
But yeah.
On that note.
Yeah. All right.
Definitely not the discourse I was anticipating with this.
The one argument that happens tonight is not even over Sonic Adventure.
Don't worry, that will come in Sonic Adventure 2.
Again, no hate to whoever loves colors. I just think you have poor taste. That's just
colors.
Me.
Colors are pretty cool. Blue, red, purple. They're pretty
Sonic
cool
colors is the most boring experience I've ever had playing a Sonic game, aside from the DS version. The DS version.
No, that has to go to Lost World. That goes to Lost World.
I'll be honest. I'll be honest, and I'm really saying this. I would play Lost World over Colors.
Okay, that is a really hot take right there.
I would play Lost World over Colors.
Lost World is trash. It's garbage. It needs to never exist.
Lost World at least has 3D segments in it.
It is a subpar Mario game.
Lost World at least has 3D segments in it.
Oh my god. But they're not good.
Neither are Colors segments.
But at least Colors has fun 2D segments. Lost World has nothing that's fun.
The 2D sections for Colors. I am saying this again. Each level in Colors Wii is just
that's
the
just
same.
Not a true statement.
It is a true statement.
Not a true statement.
Go back and play Planet Wisp and tell me how many times.
Let's get a game designer on here right now to rip out the game layouts and actually compare them side by side and see if they're actually identical.
No. Go back and play Planet Wisp.
You're saying no because you know that's not going to go in your favor.
You're not letting me finish. Go back and play Planet Wisp, okay? And tell me how many times you go through the exact same area in the last 3 acts of Planet Wisp.
I actually cannot remember those acts, to be honest. So
because it's the exact same level.
But they're not the exact same levels at like overall. Like there's still differences throughout all the acts.
They take the previous act and reuse the exact same area.
But hold on, can't that complaint also be used on Sonic Adventure? Because with other stories, you go through some of the same levels, like Tails. You go through.
But the story is different.
No, that's not a good enough excuse.
It is a good enough excuse.
No. We're not.
It is a good enough.
I'm not
excuse.
dropping that.
Well, you know what? I'd much rather sit through Adventure fighting Chaos 4 3 times than playing the exact same level 6 times. Thank you.
Oh.
You know, I would agree with that if they were the exact same levels. But
they are the exact same levels.
They're not the that's not even a true statement.
I'm not doing this.
Let's get a game designer to come in here and rip out the level
Sonic
layouts and compare them side by side. If they're not exactly the same,
Sonic Colors is so boring.
And I respect Trump. I respect that opinion, but you can't be making false statements like that.
Sonic Colors is the most boring game ever.
Boring game.
Your opinion is fine.
Boring game. Like, I don't even like colors. Who likes colors? Purple, blue, who likes them?
Get them out of here.
You guys, my ears are literally bleeding.
Those aliens are so stupid.
My ears are literally bleeding. This is the only time we'll ever reference Trump.
I'm actually crying. That's the thing. I just did it because it sounds so stupid. I mean, the way I don't even know if that was intentional, Dave, but the way you said it,
No,
it
was intentional. It was intentional.
Okay, I was like, that's fine. Oh, okay.
Man. Right,
This
so
has
Sonic
made my headache worse, by the way. Funny enough, my headache, it's pounding just because I'm laughing my ass off over here.
Okay, well, on that note, then Sonic Adventure, solid game.
It's a game.
Yeah,
Sonic Adventure 2
it's
is
a solid
better,
game.
but it's still solid.
No. You're mistaken. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you would like to, be sure to subscribe for future episodes where we force Zach to play even more Sonic games in the future.
Don't worry, we'll return a favor. He'll return a favor.
It's okay.
I'm
I've
gonna
already
have to
played.
play-
I've already played Luigi's Mansion. It's you who has to play Luigi's Mansion.
You see, that's the thing, is like a lot of my games I'm gonna have you guys play in the future are gonna be like such different games. Like there's gonna be horror, there's gonna be other types of games. Like it's gonna be variety with me. Like I'm expecting Crash, I'm expecting Sonic, I'm expecting Spyro, I'm expecting all that. You guys, I'm gonna be a wild card, so there's gonna be some interesting episodes.
This should be
This
fun.
face was not made to scream,
Should
just so
be
you
fun.
know.
This should be fun.
It's not meant to stretch in those proportions.
Oh, I'm gonna have you play some spooky games, and I'm excited for it. Next Halloween, everyone, just wait for it.
We're not doing Scooby-Doo for Halloween.
Nope.
Ruh-roh.
Like zoinks.
Right, zoink, scoot.
Like we're gonna have to play Five Nights at Freddy's.
No, we're not doing Five Nights at Freddy. No. We're playing real horror games.
I've actually never played that, so that is an option.
They're actually pretty good. They're actually
decent. They're decent.
They're decent.
I didn't realize it was a game series. I thought it was like a TV show.
I mean, you are flipping through monitors, so I guess that makes sense.
I mean,
I have no idea what Five Nights at Freddy's is.
It's okay.
No.
have you not been exposed to the internet for the past 8 years?
I mean, I
10
see
years?
it, but it's like
10
I
years.
actively scroll past it because I don't care.
I like the concept of the game,
Yeah,
but
the
anyways,
concept, Anyway, be sure to follow us on Spotify Podcasts as well as Apple Podcasts. Links in the description. And yeah,
Thanks, guys.
thank you
Thank you.
guys
Thanks for
watching and listening.
We're listening.
Goodbye.
Later.